There are a lot of financial YouTubers and social media content creators that love dividends. I've noticed over the past few years, there's been a lot of financial social media gurus, oftentimes amateurs, not professionals, who are touting the benefit of dividend paying stock. I, as a financial advisor, as a certified financial planner, as a certified private wealth advisor, don't really care very much about dividends. They don't make much of a difference in the investing experience for my clients. I have reasons for that. So if you want to learn more about dividend and dividend investing from a financial advisor's perspective, stay with me. To bring everyone up to speed on what dividends are basically a payout on a quarterly basis from a company to shareholders that hold a particular stock. Not all stocks pay out dividends, and a dividend can range anywhere from 1%. I've seen some dividends as high as 15%, but they generally range anywhere from 2 to 6% for the average shareholder. Also, this is something that's very important about dividend paying stock. Dividends are taxed the year that they are earned, not the year that they are taken. So if you just hold dividend paying stocks and you don't take the dividends, you reinvest it or do something else with the dividends, that income is taxed to you the year that it is earned, not the year that it is taken. Now, I have some issues with dividends. I don't really care about dividends very deeply, and let me explain why. Dividends, a lot of people don't realize this, but in taking dividends the year that they are earned, you are stripping out a lot of the inherent growth of the stock. Anywhere from 75 to 80% of the growth of a stock can be attributed to long-term reinvestment of dividends. And if you're relatively young, like in your 30s and 40s, and you decide to start taking those dividends, it can really impact the overall growth of the portfolio. So when I have clients who are owners of dividend stocks, we rarely, if ever, take the dividends. What we typically do is reinvest those dividends. There are a few cases where clients are encouraged to take dividends, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But my first point is that taking the dividends instead of reinvesting those dividends strips out the growth of the stock. The second point is that you really don't have a choice in taking the dividends or how or when they're reinvested. That's determination is made by the company. So dividend paying stock basically strips out a point of choice for the client. Also, for my clients who are tax sensitive, they have a major tax issue going on. It's an UTMA or UGMA account. They want to stay out of the whole kitty tax quagmire. For people who want greater control of their taxation situation, dividend paying stocks really don't play into that very well. And I am talking about individual brokerage accounts for the moment. I'm not talking about IRAs or Roth IRAs. I'm talking about brokerage accounts where, once again, dividends are taxed the year they're earned, not the year that they are taken out of the account. So my second point is that dividends can give the financial advisors and accountants fewer levers of control for taxable income versus growth stocks that do not pay dividends. Also, if you have an UTMA or UGMA account, it's basically an investment account for a child that is under the age of 21. Having dividend paying stock can inadvertently push the child into a kitty tax situation, and I won't go into detail about kitty tax, but it can create a taxation situation that is unintended. So I do have some portfolios for clients that are all growth stocks and do not have any sort of dividend payout, simply because the tax drag that dividends can create in a person's account. The third point I want to make about dividend paying stock is the way that it's touted is an additional source of passive income. In certain situations that can be true, but rarely is that ever true. Think about it this way. You have a person who has $100,000 in a brokerage account. They earn anywhere from 2 to 6% a year in dividends. So they're earning anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000 a year in dividend income. $2,000 to $6,000 a year in income isn't going to make a whole hill of beans a difference in most people's lives. If it does make a whole hill of beans a difference in your life, you probably would not have $100,000 invested in a brokerage account. Let's move the example up to 1 million. A person has $1 million in an individual brokerage account. At 2 to 6%, that's anywhere from $20,000 to $60,000 a year. If you have $1 million sitting in a brokerage account, your annual spend rate is probably so high that $20,000 to $60,000 a year doesn't make a whole hill of beans a difference. And if $20,000 to $60,000 a year is a life-altering amount of money for you, you probably don't have $1 million idling in an individual brokerage account. So that's my third reason why I'm not a huge fan of dividend investing, and I don't think it's the transformative experience that many financial YouTubers, who are often not financial professionals, so they don't kind of understand the layers of detail that go into dividend investing. They may not understand that these are some more of the nuances that you really have to understand with dividends in order to be able to optimize your experience with dividend investing. So who would be eligible for dividend investing? Older clients who are retired. And I would verify this with a financial planner or an accountant on your own. But older clients, if someone comes to me, they're retired, they're 75, they want to start taking dividends on their individual brokerage account, I don't have a problem with that. I give them dividends. Why? A, they're paying taxes on it already. B, it can help increase their standard of living. Maybe $2,000 to $6,000 really does make a difference in their lives. And C, I'm not so much concerned about growth when a person is 75 versus when a person is 35. The 75-year-old probably has anywhere from 5 to 10 years of life expectancy left in them, whereas the 35-year-old could have anywhere from 50 to 60 years of life expectancy left in them. So for myself and for the portfolios that I design, if a client comes to me and they are retired and they are older and they want to shore up their income, maybe they were really hit hard by inflation or some other things happen that they just need some additional income, then we can talk about turning on the dividends and giving them access to the dividends. I don't care about doing that. If it helps them, if it makes their situation better, I'm willing to do that. But if a 35-year-old client came to me with a similar story, they were running low on funds and they needed the dividends, I would have questions about that. I would have questions, and primarily because it is stripping out 75 to 80% of the growth in the portfolio. And with younger clients, once you turn on dividends and they grow accustomed to that extra $2,000 to $6,000 a year, they often don't want to turn it off. And it's a battle to get them to see reason in turning off the dividends and going back to their traditional standard of living. So what do I have to say to you, the viewer, about dividends and what you should be doing, especially if you're in your 50s, 60s, and 70s, to look at your investments in terms of dividends? The first thing I would say is you're probably going to need to work with a certified financial planner to set up your portfolio for dividend investing if you want to go that route. A lot of the stocks that my younger clients own are growth stocks and don't even pay out dividends. There's usually this conversation in the person's 50s or 60s if we want to start feng shuiing their portfolio into more dividend paying stocks. Typically, dividend paying stocks are in a lower risk strata than growth stocks. So it's part of the general conversation of culling back risk. If they do want to cull back risk and pull out of some growth stocks and go into more dividend paying stocks, it's typically a multi-year process because there is capital gains and growth on these stocks. So you can't just go and pull out everything and put, a new portfolio over that. I really strongly suggest, if you want someone to look at your portfolio and figure out what is dividend, what is growth, and what is the best blend for you, you need to work with a certified financial planner one-on-one to design that. The second thing I would say is if you're going towards dividend paying stocks, you need to calculate out exactly how much you're going to receive in dividends. There's also something called capital gains on mutual funds And that's a whole other kettle of fish. But you need someone to work with you to calculate exactly how much income you're going to receive from switching over to dividend paying stocks. If you're going to receive an extra $6,000 a year, but it's going to cost you, $70,000 in capital gains tax to reconfigure your portfolio to get that extra $6,000 a year, that may not make sense. Or it may not make sense to do it all at once. Or there are additional considerations that have to be taken into account in a situation like that before you say, okay, let's go to a dividend paying portfolio. And this is where the financial advisor and a certified financial planner or a accountant comes in handy. When a client does switch to dividend paying stock, it's a question of, do they want the dividends monthly, weekly, or all at once? A lot of people don't realize this, but companies pay out their dividends at different times. There are dividends that are coming and going all the time in my portfolio, and I can see them moving in and out and being reinvested all the time. I have clients who say, okay, pay me out the dividends, just pay it as it come. And they'll receive, 50 bank transfers over the course of 1 month because of a dividend payout, or a month that is typically a high dividend payout month. So some of my clients make the decision to just hold the dividends and pay it out once a month. Some clients don't mind receiving the 50 different bank transfers. They think it's cool. And some people are like, just hold it in a money market for me and I will receive it either quarterly or all at once. So once again, that's a conversation with your financial planner, how and in what order you want to receive your dividends. The fourth thing is that you need to understand that taking dividends will diminish overall growth. And I try to prepare my clients for that. I will say it again and again and again at each and every meeting. It doesn't really solidify for the client until, their growth drops from 15% a year to 9% a year. And then they have questions. Well, why isn't my growth as popping as it was in the past? Well, because you are taking the dividends. And I told you a lot of the growth in this portfolio comes from reinvestment of dividends. We've made the decision to take those dividends. You're not going to see the double-digit growth in the portfolio. And a good financial planner will really prepare the client for that. But no matter how many times you say it in an office meeting, the client will forget. And when they see the growth diminish, they will have questions. And you have to remind them that this is a decision that was made to take the dividend. The final thing is, once again, I fully recommend that you have a conversation with an advisor or an accountant before doing this. I don't give blanket advice on this channel, but in my personal situations, if I'm going to give dividends to someone out of the brokerage account, they better be retired. I'm not going to give a 25-year-old dividends from their investment account. I'm not going to give a 45-year-old dividends from their investment account. Essentially, they need to be retired, close to retired, or fully retired. Dividends are more complicated than I think a lot of financial advisors, especially amateur financial content creators on YouTube, often give credit for. If you found this information and kind of education about dividends and what they can and can't do for you, you found it useful, please like, please share, and please subscribe.